What's up, Fantasy Pros? My name is Andrew Erickson. Today I'm going to be identifying my final trade targets before Week 12 kicks off. But before I get to my list, if you want to win a glorious 36-inch fantasy championship trophy for your league, courtesy of our good friends at Trophy Smack, the number one destination for epic fantasy tournament trophies, all you have to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now, drop a comment below on this video, and that is it. I'm announcing a winner right here on the channel. So make sure to turn on those notifications so you can claim your prize. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight to the trade list before Week 12 kicks off and those trade deadlines close. Running back James Cook, sell. The Buffalo Bills ground game was paced by James Cook in Week 11, who amassed 73 yards on 17 carries, averaging 4.3 yards per carry with his longest run being 12 yards. He played 46% of the snaps, same as the week before. Latavius Murray contributed 35 yards on 10 carries while earning a 32% snap share. Murray and Cook split routes while neither scored on the ground. Cook showcased his receiving abilities with 29 receiving yards and a touchdown on 3 catches with 4 targets. Ty Johnson also chipped in 47 yards and a touchdown on 3 catches from 3 targets. Also tallied 3 carries while tallying a 21% snap share. With more and more running backs being used in the Bills' backfield, I'm trying to sell high on Cook after the receiving touchdown. The schedule is rough for running backs upcoming: Eagles, then a bye week, the Chiefs, Cowboys, and Los Angeles Chargers. Sell Cook for Brian Robinson, Drake London, Jerome Ford, Deontay Johnson, Marquise Brown, or this next buy high running back. Running back Jaylen Warren for the Pittsburgh Steelers, buy. Warren led the Steelers with an impressive 129 rushing yards and a touchdown on just 9 carries, averaging a remarkable 14.3 yards per carry in Week 11. His longest run was a notable 74-yarder. He caught all 3 passes for 16 yards on 3 targets for a 12% target share. Meanwhile, Najee Harris had just 35 yards on 12 carries. 2 targets. Woof. He only had 5 carries in the first half. Harris saw his snaps bounce back to 57% versus Warren's 45%. But I pay less attention to the snaps when Warren would have played more had he not been ripping off chunk gains left and right. As always, buy Warren and sell Najee Harris. The Steelers can only keep their best offensive playmaker behind Harris for so long. The matchups in the next 2 weeks are divine for the ground attack to be productive against the Bengals and Cardinals. And with the firing of Matt Canada in favor of the running backs coach taking over as the new offensive coordinator, I expect Warren's touches to increase as the team's #1 explosive playmaker. Buy Warren with Deebo Samuel, Adam Thielen, or this next sell running back. Running back Joe Mixon, Cincinnati Bengals, sell. Joe Burrow is going to miss the rest of the season with a wrist injury. Hate selling low, but I think that's the move that needs to be made before the trade deadline with Joe Mixon. The rest of the season schedule is very tough. Steelers, Jaguars, Colts, and Vikings, followed by the Pittsburgh again, and the Chiefs in the Fantasy Football Championships. Woof. So I'm selling Mixon easily on the idea that the Bengals will lean on him more with an inexperienced quarterback under center. The last thing you want is to be overly reliant on Mixon after he scored for the 4th time in as many weeks last Thursday night. From weeks 1 through 6, Mixon was the RB19 in points per game, averaging just north of 10 points per game in half PPR scoring. Trade Joe Mixon for Ramondre Stevenson, Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers, or the next buy low wide receiver. Wide receiver Nico Collins, Houston Texans, buy. Collins had 65 yards on 7 receptions from 11 targets, 29% target share, 88 air yards in Week 11. He didn't score, but CJ Stroud was looking at him near pay dirt as he commanded 4 red zone targets. I talked about Nico Collins as a buy low last week coming off his injury. With him far from the top of minds of fantasy gamers with Tank Dell exploding, Nico Collins probably a sharp trade target as an access point to the Texans passing game. He left production on the table this past week and was the target share leader in the passing game. He also faces the Jaguars this week and the Titans twice in the fantasy football playoffs. Buy Collins with Chris Olave or this next sell high wide receiver. Wide receiver Calvin Ridley, Jacksonville Jaguars, sell. Ridley was the primary target in the receiving game for the Jags, catching 7 of his 9 targets for a 28% target share, 103 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns in Week 11. Naturally, Zay Jones was back in the lineup, so Ridley balled out. Still, I think the splits with Jones are somewhat noisy, as Ridley has been just more matchup dependent based on the defenses he has faced. But I do want to provide some semblance of why I think Jones can be active helps Ridley be more productive. Jones playing allows the Jaguars to be more versatile with how they deploy Ridley. He's no longer pigeonholed into being stuck on the perimeter running strictly go routes and curls. He played his most slot snaps of the year in Week 11. Ridley can be used more over the middle at the intermediate level of the field as an actual route runner. But even with Jones back, I'd still be wary of holding Ridley too close. Prime time to sell high after a big boob game against a horrible defense. And it's the perfect time to buy Christian Kirk, who has been Lawrence's go-to guy all season long. Don't let one game let you forget. Ridley has been nothing more than a boomer bust fantasy wide receiver 3 this season, aka Sexy Gabe Davis. Sell high on Ridley before he plays the Browns and Ravens in weeks 13 and 14. Get Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Drake London, or this next buy wide receiver. Wide receiver Zay Flowers, Baltimore Ravens, buy. Zay Flowers had 43 yards on 3 catches last Thursday night, despite playing 98% of the snaps. But as most of us all saw, he had a long touchdown wiped off the board due to a bogus holding penalty from Odell Beckham Jr. Buy low on Zay Flowers. The team is going to have to lean on their talented rookie more than ever without Mark Andrews the rest of the way. Back in week 1, without Mark Andrews in the lineup, Flowers commanded 10 targets, catching 9 for 78 yards. I expect Flowers' touchdowns to increase as well. He has the most receiving yards among all wide receivers this season with just 1 touchdown score. The schedule is also great for a second half rookie breakout for Zay Flowers. The Chargers, a bye week, the Rams, Jaguars, 49ers, and Dolphins to close out the season. It's a top-end schedule for wide receivers. Buy Flowers with Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin, or this next sell high wide receiver. Wide receiver Chris Olave, New Orleans Saints, sell. Olave caught 6 of his 9 targets for a 23% target share for 94 yards, including a 26-yard touchdown back before the Saints bye week. He had 182 total air yards, 45% air yard share. He had another big catch nullified due to a penalty. But all of his production came in the second half. He had 0 first-half targets. Derek Carr got hurt on his first throw to Olave. Sell high on Olave after his big game with Jameis Winston at quarterback, because that's not going to be the case after the bye week most likely, under the assumption that Derek Carr clears the concussion protocol and resumes status as QB1 for the New Orleans Saints. Use Olave to get Marquise Brown, DK Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, Michael Pittman Jr., or this next buy low running back. Running back Derrick Henry, buy. Henry led the Titans with 10 carries for 38 yards, averaging 3.8 yards per carry last week. Tajay Spears had 14 yards on just 4 carries. Spears also caught 2 passes for 12 yards. Henry caught 1 pass for 6 yards on 2 targets. Still, it was a 62% snap share for Henry, 45% for Spears. This is interesting because in negative game scripts, Henry never outsnapped Spears. But in this particular game, it was by far the most snaps he had played in a big loss for the Titans this season. The Panthers are up next for the Titans, back at home. 4 of their last 5 games are at home for Tennessee, where the Titans play so much better on offense. Henry has finished no worse than RB15 in any home game this season. Week 12 was an awesome bounce back spot for Henry in the Tennessee offense. This week 11 game was bizarre as the Titans ran just 38 offensive plays. The Titans ranked last in the NFL in that category this season at 58. So it was a very outlier performance from this offense. But the schedule, even after the Panthers, is so great. The Colts, Dolphins, Texans, Seattle, and Houston again. It's a top 5 rest of season schedule for running backs. Buy the big dog with Jamar Chase, Javonte Williams, Alvin Kamara, or this next sell high running back. Running back Saquon Barkley, New York Giants, sell. Barkley had 14 carries for 83 yards against the Commanders. But recall, in the first half, he was stuck at 6 carries for -2 yards. He also caught 4 passes for 57 yards and scored 2 receiving touchdowns on just 5 targets. He played 91% of the snaps. He is the entire Giants offense. And he probably just had his best game against the weakest opponent on the schedule, with the Patriots, Packers, Saints, Eagles, and the Rams rounding out the remaining schedule for the Giants. It's a bottom 8 schedule over the rest of the season for running backs. Sell high on Saquon Barkley in this Tommy DeVito-led offense for guys like Michael Pittman Jr. or Isaiah Pacheco or the aforementioned Derrick Henry. But specifically, target this next running back. Do whatever you can to get this running back on your team after he's had 2 bottom weeks. Running back Travis Etienne Jr., Jacksonville Jaguars, buy. Etienne led the Jags with 14 carries for 52 yards, averaging 3.7 yards per attempt in Week 11. He caught 3 passes for 7 yards on 3 targets for a 9% target share. Tank Bigsby and Dearness Johnson added 21 and 20 yards respectively on 9 and 7 carries. But most of this came in garbage time. I would not read too much into this other usage for these Jags. Etienne is still the bell cow. Buy him after back-to-back middling games with whatever you can, such as guys like Keenan Allen, Breece Hall, Josh Jacobs, or even Tank Dell. Guys like Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley aren't going to be scoring multiple touchdowns every single week. Etienne is the engine to this offense. It can be the engine to your fantasy football team that will win a championship in 2023. Let's go. That concludes my list of players to trade before Week 12 kicks off. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. And again, comment below, what was the biggest trade that you made this season? Let me know in the comments. And before you go, if you want to win a glorious 36-inch fantasy championship trophy for your league, courtesy of our good friends at Trophy Smack, the #1 destination for epic fantasy tournament trophies, all you have to do is subscribe to the FantasyPros YouTube channel right now, drop a comment below on this video, and that is it. We'll be announcing a winner right here on the channel. So make sure to turn on those notifications so you can claim your prize. Thanks for watching.